A friend of mine said this to me. No, a friend of mine said this to me. The only thing that sucks worse than being married is dying alone.
My friends,
so that's just. I mean, again, I don't even think being married sucks, but like, it's much more common. Yeah, it's much more common for people to not get married than it used to be. And so I have a much bigger sample size of unmarried people, around me than was probably possible or common, 30 years ago. And they're all miserable.
Listen, I wouldn't trade off for anything. I'm just being an asshole.
But I understand. Of course it feels that way, dude.
So like my friend Carl is like, and he's in his 50s, he's in shape, retired, fucking CEO, but like total American flag dude. Yeah. He used to date my wife's friend, who's actually, like, all kidding aside, definitely suffers from like some sort of psychological disorder that got worse over the course of 15 years. And he's not a guy to be going out dating girls at all, right? He actually asked me, yo, your wife have any friends? Good dude, financially supported, fucking, structured guy, trains dogs, all that shit. He broke up with her. She was fucking, for him to do that, right? So the other day I was fucking doing this kind of fucking bullshit. He goes, guess what, bro? I'm going to die alone, though. And he was like a little, he had like a weird, I'm like, brutal, I felt bad for him. You know what I'm saying? He goes, must realize he's in the mid or 50s. He has all these hobbies, goes, flies planes, but he's like, I'm going to die alone.
Yeah, that sucks.
I was like, ugh.
On a better note.
But then I have my friend JD who wants to die alone. Good looking guy. The other day, he's one of my best friends. Loyal, great dude, right? Complete opposite, though, of like likings other than vagina. Smokes weed, parties, keeps his house perfect. It's like, dude, there's not one thing. I told Bachelor lives. You could tell only a man lives there. There's not 1 ounce of dust.
Yeah.
The closet's organized. But he chewed, because we were counting as women. He goes, I don't know, bro. He's like, at least 300, 400. I go, how many times do you wear a condom? He's like, only with the hookers.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm like, I don't know if I envy you or if I don't ever want to get blood donation from you.
That's probably the latter, for sure. Yeah, for sure. He should be blacklisted.
All kidding aside, though, my friend Chris, right? From Belmont Kickback, awesome dude, total lunatic. He used to straight up be like a DJ in like a strip club whorehouse. He used to fuck them all with no bag and just eat antibiotics, just like prevent it. I go, bro, what about HIV? And he's like, ha. All kidding aside, I told him this. I go, if God forbid I got into a car accident, I needed a blood transfusion. Like, you have a 50% death chance of dying on the way, but Chris is your alternative to save you. I go, I'll take my chances.
I'm
not kidding.
Yeah. I don't blame you. You're just gonna have full blown AIDS because your buddy.
But there's something floating in there that no one knows about yet.
That's also the thing. Yes, there's some new organism that exists within his blood. They're gonna find when he dies.
Beyond purple lesions.
They're gonna be like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Yeah, I mean
the gay cancer.
Well, good lord,
right? That's just called the gay cancer.
Good lord. So I know you wanted to talk TRT today, a couple things, but we were discussing this a little bit yesterday. We were going over some stuff, like the trend of every single person, with the exception of maybe me and you, lying downward about the doses that they take. And we were talking about this video. It was pretty good. It was I forget Bob Chikorello, I think his name is. Yeah, I always forget what had the last name, but I could always see his face. He was a very well-known bodybuilder. He did some podcast. He got pulled up, and a friend of mine had just asked me about this. And I guess your phone totally spies on you, so I guess it heard 100%. Me and then absolutely gave me the data in the algorithm, no question. And I was talking to a friend of mine about guys, bodybuilders lying about their doses. Some is true, some is not. And I remember seeing this interview with Tom Platz in like the 80s, and he's talking about taking gear. It was funny. Some of the names he couldn't pronounce, so he was kind of like saying the words really fast because he didn't want to sound like an idiot, which kind of cracked me up. But anyway, he's talking about he's taken, I don't remember the exact amounts. It's actually like a literal seminar he did. He's at a microphone, he's on stage. It's pretty famous. And he's talking about, I took Nandrolone or Winstrol or whatever. And now, because of the internet, every person who used to be a successful athlete or whatever has a podcast and they're telling stories, and it is cool to an extent, but it's like every seminar Tom Platz does, the doses just get lower and lower. It's like, and in the seminar that I was talking about, he's there in the 80s, like he's still in it. Like he's still jacked. Like he's probably still competing. He's training hard. Now he's like, yeah, I took, 1 cc of nandrolone a week and 1 Winstrol pill a day, and that was my pharmaceutical intervention. And we're like, I don't fucking believe you, sir. I don't believe you. And then Bob Chikorello brought this up. You see these old clips of Tom Platz training, and it's like, sir, you were on methamphetamine. No human being behaves this way. Not even Dorian Yates behaves.
I mean, he's an
way.
intense person.
Yes.
He's older now. He wears suspenders shit. And he's like,
yeah.
But like, that's just a different. That's like 5 scoops of Ultimate Orange. Stan Duchesne's Ultimate Orange all the time. Maybe more.
Like, obviously, if you take amphetamine, that's going to speed you up. But to be that crazy, it's got to be in you to begin
breaking
with.
the leg extension machine, the way just throwing it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, he's like, I would hold the weight, in static position until like a tendon would pop, and then I'd let it go. I'm like, that's not really conducive for muscle growth, but that's like an insanity thought.
Yes.
To hold the weight at
He
that
just liked
moment.
pain.
When you're high on meth, you're like, this is a good idea. I'm going to hold 315 on my calves until the Achilles tendon pops and then give it up. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, he would say he would train legs sometimes twice a month because he couldn't recover from the workouts. It's like, dude, if you're on gear and you have the best genetics in the world and you can only train your legs twice a month, you might want to think about toning some of this shit down, bud.
Yeah, dude, he would fucking do like, I remember one time, what was it? And now thinking maybe meth use, didn't he do 315 for like a half hour or something like that?
He did. Him and Dr. Squat, Fred Hatfield, they did a famous thing where they worked up to like their max squat, and Fred Hatfield cooked him in the max squat. And they went to 315 for reps, and Platz cooked him in for reps. But he said he used to squat for 10 straight minutes.
Yeah, something stupid.
Set a timer and just squat for 10 consecutive minutes.
Like not putting the bar down.
Yeah, just literally with the bar on your back. Like, dude, you got to be high to do that. I'm sorry.
Dude, I've done dimetridine 25. I've eaten 2 at a time. And I didn't want to squat for 10 minutes.
No.
Your workouts are pretty intense. Yeah. They're awesome.
Yeah.
But like, you're high, bro.
Yeah.
It's a good idea right now. It's a good idea.
Set yourself back 3 months of progress because you wanted to squat for 10 minutes. But
dude, on that, like, think about that. He could cause serious, like, it was like damage.
Dude, I bet
that's not triggering muscle growth.
He had to have given himself rhabdo.
And just
ate it. Just got up the next day.
Cooked off the rhabdo with the meth.
He absolutely had to have given himself rhabdo. There's just no. This the way that the shit that guy would do on machines is like, if you saw someone in a gym doing that wasn't that jacked, you'd be furious with them for breaking the machine for everybody else. You'd be like, "What the fuck's the matter with you?" Like,
other people have
put some weight on the machine, and so you don't actually like detach the leg extension. Like, what are we doing here? But the reason why I bring it up is just like, there definitely is a tendency for some people to lie down about their doses.
We both know, dude, that like, something that the more shit you take, the more your muscles are gonna big and uptake protein and all that stuff. Like, you're not gonna grow that much muscle on 5. I think they were 5 milligrams back then.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's no way that I believe that, dude. Like you're actually insulting my intelligence. Like, it's not so much that you're lying as much as like you're basically saying, I think you were stupid.
So on that also, I mean, dude, I was so in tune with the knowledge of this that like, I come across, I'm like, yo, I'm not a fucking idiot. Don't lie to me.
Yeah.
You look like an idiot lying to me. Local dude, 260 pounds, gorilla. I was like, dude, what are you doing now? He's like, 200 mgs of test and 100 milligrams of Deca. I'm like,
bye.
I did. I go, bye. I literally, not even kidding. I walked away.
Yeah.
I didn't even say anything. I went, all right.
So you're so full of shit. Yeah, you're so full of shit. And we were talking about this yesterday. I don't know how much you want to divulge of this. It's up to you. But like, talking about just, you realized how little gear you did relative to other people in terms of like the numbers that guys are taking, how it's just like astronomical, like totally preposterous amounts of chemicals in your body. And you were saying yesterday, you were like, maybe I could have been a really good bodybuilder if I actually wanted to torture myself enough.
I just really at a point like where I was into it, I really thought about this. I go, I'm probably not going to be Mr. Olympia. And even Mr. Olympia doesn't make that much money then. I go, and at the end of the day, did not want to do that to my body. I was scared to put that volume of drugs in my body.
Yeah, for sure.
I just didn't think it was worth it for me.
Yeah. It was even more of a frontier sport back then, right? Like a lot of guys in the 90s were dropping dead or have died because there was a lot more experimentation. As we discussed last week about technology and everything, like technology has made it possible to aggregate data. So even if we're not innovating anything, more people are learning what a smaller amount of people knew because of our access to the data. So like now we could pull from a bigger sample size and say, hey, maybe this dose is too much, or this is optimal, this is suboptimal, and so on and so forth. That didn't exist back then. It was just like take it and see what happens, essentially, right?
Dave Palumbo?
Yeah, of course. It's amazing he's still alive. Amazing, honestly. It's a testament to either his resiliency or how maybe not bad these drugs can be for you if taken correctly, right? But no question. I mean, the thing too with a lot of this is just like you brought up the not making money part of it. I had a friend who was he got arrested. You know, cops pulled him over. He had some like Vikes in his car, whatever. And unbeknownst to me, we were friends. I was never into pills or anything like that. He had developed like a pretty serious habit with guys at his job. And I remember when he got arrested, I remember asking him, I was like, do you really have a problem? And he was like, I was probably at the point where I had to decide to stop or become a full-blown drug addict. Like he was at the crossroads where it was past recreational use into I'm starting to make my day around getting access to these drugs. And I either keep going this way and I'm a drug addict, or I just stop now.
A lot of people don't do that.
And it's going to be okay. And in a way, you were that way with bodybuilding, which is like you're at a point where it's like, okay, to really take this to the next level, I'm going to have to really kind of go into this frontier that hasn't been settled. We don't know what the fuck it's going to look like and see what happens. And who knows? You could have been fine. Could have not been fine.
Just wasn't worth either which way.
We'll never know. Yeah.
I was like, I look good enough. I'm not going to be a pro. I'm not a huge guy. And do I even want to be? I mean, when I was like, 12 years old, I wanted to be 300 pounds, but
yeah, of course.
That kind of diminished by the time I got like 16 years old and 18.
Until you feel what it's like to be really heavy, and then you start to realize.
Heavy for me was 230, and I'm only 5'8", barely.
Yeah.
And like I remember like leaning over, it was tough to tie my shoes.
Dude, if you wanted to be an open, it's funny, you might have made a different decision if Classic Physique existed.
Right.
Right? Like the actual weight limit for what you can really weigh, right? But you consider there are bodybuilders that are, they're 5'8" and they're stepping on stage at 265. That's crazy. To think about, like, you look like a muscular dude now at barely 200 pounds.
Barely.
Yeah, right? Like, what you'd have to look like with 60 extra pounds of tissue, not water.
Dude, that's a mutant.
Yeah. It's
incredible. I wouldn't even want to look like that.
Yeah.
It's like you're as uncomfortable as being a heavy person. You have to be.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, you have to, in that situation, it's like, I was listening to this interview. It was Boss Rutan and Quentin Jackson, or Rampage Jackson, talking about their fighting careers. I think one thing that Rampage kind of brought up was like, towards the end of his MMA career, he was like, for the first time, he was like, why am I doing this? As he's walking out to the cage, like all this training, all of the work, I'm in so much pain. I'm going to be in pain after this. Like, once you start to think, why am I doing this? Especially in an athletic endeavor, you're probably done.
Who is that, Boss Rutan, you said?
Quentin said that. Yeah, Quentin said that. And he's one of my all-time favorites. And he basically was saying, like, later in his career, he's just like, because it's uncomfortable to be able to present yourself as an athlete, in bodybuilding especially, or I felt this way in powerlifting. Like, initially, I would take trend. I didn't care about how crazy I felt. I just wanted to be strong. And then eventually, you start to realize, like, this is really wearing on me. I have to make some life changes here. And you're like, why am I doing this? Like, the inconvenience and uncomfortability, for lack of a better term, of my life at this point is just not worth the output, right? And that's what fascinates me about some normal guys that we talk to. It's like, I kind of know you feel like shit.
It's not worth it. But like we were just talking about the one client.
Yeah.
Right? And he could just endure such uncomfortable situations. And like, when he says he feels fine, be like, there's no way you feel fine.
No, not at all.
There's no
Not at
way
all.
you feel fine.
No, you don't.
There's zero possibility.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just so used to feeling so uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, but also, dude, like, think of it this way. Like, for a lot of people, if they could not rationalize things, they'd probably kill themselves. Let's just be honest. Like, if it's sometimes it's easier to lie. Well, it's always easier to lie, really, than tell the truth. So, I mean, to think about it, it's not the best thing to do. But like, you could look in the mirror and be like, "Oh, I'm a hardworking person," and try to find some way to rationalize that, rather than to be like, "Oh, I'm not." And by the way, the last 20 years of my life were a fucking waste. That's heavy. Not everyone can handle that type of self-critique. It's especially if you haven't done it your whole life. So for someone who's really unhealthy, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. I can see you. I see how uncomfortable. I see you sweating in an air-conditioned room. I know that you're not okay, but whatever. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's so dumb when people say they're like, I don't go to a doctor because I don't want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, well,
I'm like, oh, that's good. When fucking, you'd be sorry when they're opening up your chest, replacing
the
shit.
same logic that I used to use when I was driving a piece of shit Ford Taurus and I was 19 years old and couldn't afford anything. Just don't want to take it to the mechanic because I don't want to know what's wrong with it. Like in my
That's
mind,
the same thing.
Yeah.
But at least you're going to be alive.
Yeah, the Taurus is going to be dead long before I am, thankfully, right? So whatever. But I know that you had mentioned before we kind of started to record today about TRT dosing.
Yeah.
So we're talking about guys lying about their doses. Okay. So the question then is, because we put up a video on the Instagram the other day about how a lot of times guys are still taking too much even for TRT. And I thought the responses were interesting because some people are totally delusional. Like, think that you need 200 plus for replacement.
Before you continue with that, I get all these DMs. Doctor prescribed 300 milligrams.
It's wild.
I'm like, are they lying to me? Should that dude have his medical license pulled?
Yeah.
Is it the lack of knowledge? Is it shit test because their levels only go up to 700 nanograms a deciliter, 300 milligrams a week?
Uh-huh.
Which one is it?
Yeah.
So let's just say the doctor's prescribing 300 milligrams a week, one that's incorrect. And then what was so interesting enough lately is that we're learning, as we do, from who. And it makes total sense because you and I know enough. It's almost philosophy, right? You wake up every day, you sleep every day, you eat every day. So even if you look at your natural pulsatile of testosterone, it's a daily pulse, right? You're going to inject your test once or 2 times a week and let it ramp up and down. Mm-hmm. One's going to initiate more side effects.
For sure.
Makes total sense, okay? Instead of an even flow every day. He was like, doctors are stupid and lazy. That's why I say do twice a day. Because you could see the levels, and it's blood work proven. It's only logical. You shoot it even the longer, it goes like this, plummets up and down.
Of course.
One time a week, even worse. You're going to feel that. If you do minuscule amounts daily, it's only logical to be more stable. You're going to get less DHT spikes, less estrogen spikes.
Of course.
Less acne, less hair loss. Oh, that might be intriguing to people.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care about their HDLs, but I might lose my fucking hair. Oh, maybe I'll try it now.
Yeah.
Right?
The only logical explanation I've heard, and I get this, is some guys who were competitors are just they don't want the scar tissue of having to pin every day. And if you're using insulin pins and you're pinning every day, you could be using multiple syringes a day, right? If you're using a lot of gear, right? You just don't know. So I understand why somebody would say, dude, I'll just do it 3 days a week. I don't want to do it every day. I don't want the scar tissue. Sure, whatever, okay? Me personally, I do it every day. And truthfully, if I forget a day, which happens every now and again, I don't really ever double dose the next day. I just
continue.
I just continue. I do notice that my body looks different. Like I'll be a little more watery the day after. Like the sinking that it comes back up.
Really?
100%, dude. Absolutely. I absolutely notice it. So it makes perfect sense. And the reality is also the volume of injection is so low. Like if it's dosed at 200 per ml, which it almost always is, that's like 0.14 on an insulin syringe. That's like
thing
nothing.
Even if we can make total sense of it, which is true. It's almost logical to think it. What's the biggest issue with people doing it? They're not going to want to shoot every day.
Yeah.
That is the biggest hurdle with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You just make it a routine like brushing your teeth. It's as easy as
That's
that
exactly how I view it as well. Yeah.
Even though I don't forget to brush my teeth, but I don't forget. You leave a little note, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? You're so used to brushing your teeth your entire life. Maybe you just started TRT 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Then you go to switch it up. You might forget here and there, but just make some sort of note. The biggest hurdle is some people just genuinely hate sticking needles in their body. Even if you made every sense of it, that this is the way to do this, even they're still going to be like, fuck that. I'm only going to do it twice.
Yeah, and in that instance, it's better to be on TRT than it's not, assuming you really need it, right? So you want to obviously tackle the big issue, which is that you have low testosterone and that you're a mess. So just getting that replaced is going to improve quality of life so much. So you're kind of like whatever, you know what I mean? Just take it as easy as possible. I will say for you and I to be like, on Instagram saying, hey, you should pin yourself every day if you're on TRT. These are two guys that have been doing this for 20 years in some capacity, right? So like, yeah, I would imagine when I first started using gear, I'm certain if you were like inject yourself every day, I would have had a panic attack. Because when you first start doing it, it takes some nerve. Now, to be fair to us, back then nobody was using insulin needles. We were using fucking harpoons.
I used harpoons.
Yeah, so you would see it like, oh my god. Nowadays, you look at those little things, you're like, this is easy. Like this is a joke. Like no
one
issue,
did a
no problem.
5/8 pin, 25 gauge.
Yeah,
No one did
back
that.
then, there was people were using 21 gauges.
I literally used to use a 22 inch and a half. That was the first one I started
That's
with.
that's what everyone did. No one knew anything better. So yeah, if you were like stick yourself with that every day, I'd be like, are you fucking crazy? No shot. You just loaded it up 2-3 days a week. See you later, sayonara, and just full send it. But for sure, people need to be doing these things a little bit more responsibly, taking it every single day. Even if you're using HCG, I feel like it's probably beneficial to use it every day.
Small doses daily.
Small
Think about
doses.
think about how the human body works. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? What also made sense when you think about it, listen, you just read the literature, but you don't really think about it too much. You don't go too far in depth. You trust what you're reading from someone who's supposed to be more knowledgeable, professionals, whatever, chemists. Where to dose it, subcutaneous or intramuscular, right? It's almost logical. Like you think, I thought about it, I'm shooting into the fat. Doesn't make sense. There's no vessels in the fat. But you know what? I'm trusting it because they said this is the most optimal way to do it. Instead of shooting into tissue that has the most vessel and blood flow, where it could get into your system or in the muscles, right? Or shoot into the fat. Where does it get absorbed? What if you have a lot of body fat?
Well, that's the elephant in the room, right? If you're really fat, then the absorption time is going to be God knows what.
And
they're
also,
100% correct about that.
It's incorrect about timing of blood levels. Sub-Q to intramuscular, right? Another interesting point, it's actually it's the other way. Serum blood levels to what the inside the muscle level is, actually. Doesn't mean that's inside the muscle. I mean, what are you going to do then, though? Pull from the actual muscle?
No.
That's the one thing I didn't really get my head around.
Okay.
Kind of makes sense in a way, right? What differentiates between blood value to actually in the muscle value? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just speaking out loud thinking, like philosophically, like how it could make sense. Was it not binding to the muscles then to do what you want it to do? Is it binding to your, to give you a sex drive, whatever, make you feel good? But I thought that was interesting on just how timing of dosing, right?
No, I think I noticed that I feel better. I mean, listen.
You do feel better.
100%. Dude, and if I were to ever miss a day and then double dose it, which you should not do, I definitely look like a water balloon.
Spike
relative to how I did. I certainly noticed differences in libido. Absolutely no question about it. I've always struggled a little bit with sleep. It's hard for me to pinpoint if injection frequency has ever hurt my sleep per se. I can certainly list compounds that I have just totally decided never to take again because they mess with my sleep. I mean, it's just to me that's a non-starter. If I can't sleep, I'm fucked.
So don't grow muscle. You don't rest.
It's just not worth it. But like, I don't think there's any reason not to do it aside from maybe you're worried about scar tissue accumulation. And I think some guys that are like top level pro bodybuilders, who is not our audience and they're not listening to this, I get them being like, I'm so sick of injecting myself, I'm going to do it once a week. I get that. It's better than nothing, but I do think daily certainly is best. I don't think there's any reason not to do it, honestly. I mean,
I'm giving it a shot.
Yeah, I just don't see it.
Maybe I get sick of doing it every day. Maybe I don't. Maybe I feel so much better that I'm like, you know what? This is the way to do it.
Yeah.
The only hurdle for me is this. I go, I'm going on vacation in 7 weeks.
That's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to a place where, okay, it's accepted. You could go through the customs and all that shit.
Yeah.
Just say you travel to a place international, right? And testosterone's illegal there, whatever it may be, even prescribed. Can't bring this shit. Then what are you going to do? Take a large shot before you go with your family. Get all fucked up. Your level's going to go all over the place. So you have sustainable levels of testosterone there. You know what I'm saying? And then come back. That's the only hurdle in my head.
That's what I did before I went to Costa Rica. My wife for our honeymoon a few years ago. Like I wasn't going to.
It's legal there, by the way.
I didn't even know I wasn't going to travel with it. So I was just like, all right, boom, beam me up, and I was gone for 12 days. So I was like crashing.
You could have went to a pharmacy and just boosted yourself back up.
If I had known that, I would have done it.
Yeah.
No questions asked. So it's also safe there. So it's not like you're going to get killed on your way to the pharmacy, which is pretty funny. But
Where is safe? Where you were safe.
Costa Rica's a reasonably safe country.
Not where I was.
Where the hell were you?
Parts where that weren't safe.
Okay. Fair. Well, yeah, but you find those parts, bro.
Yeah.
That's you like the
Like
danger.
alleys, like they come out to like mug you. And I was with Jordan. They turned around.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah,
But I was like,
I'm
oh,
there with my
shit.
wife. There's no alleys. There was resorts and restaurants.
Nice restaurants, resorts,
That was
safe.
it. That was it. Now, I wanted to ask you about something because this is an area that I don't know shit about. And we were discussing this. The usefulness of certain peptides as compared to the usefulness of HGH. So, obviously, we could just take HGH, super common, whatever, or we could take peptides that make our body essentially produce more HGH. Okay, so my very rudimentary understanding of this is essentially, if I were to choose, and I'm not saying that anyone should listen to this, but if I had to choose between a peptide and actual growth hormone, I'd probably just choose the growth hormone because I might want to take super physiological doses, and to me it just makes more sense. There seems to be less timing constraints with GH as opposed to other things. But we were discussing, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago when we were having a meeting about guys that have seen incredible results with like ipamorelin.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It was actually, it was probably like 5 years ago. It was Semarelin and GHRP2 and 6 combination from a clinic. And my friend was like, he said, I go, dude, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You're shredded. He's like, bro, I'm using these peptides. I go, they're working that well. It might have been longer than even 6 years ago. He's like, dude, I was shredded. He goes, I went to the doctor. He goes, I thought there was something wrong with me. He goes, your IGF-1 levels are just through the ceiling. It took though like 2 to 3 months for it to really start to initiate the process for it to really work. But from this is my perspective on it, right? If I want to raise my testosterone levels and feel really good, like at an optimal level, am I going to take HCG and clomiphene or shoot tesipinate? I'm going to take tesipinate.
Of course. Right. I agree.
Not use my endogenous testosterone. Same thing with growth hormone, the way I looked at it, right? And I've never really seen results to that level with anybody else, or maybe they didn't put enough time with it. Maybe people want instant results or whatever it is, right? That's the way I looked at that. Now, growth hormone, am I going to utilize my own internal or am I going to use an outside source, right? The one thing with outside source, what I recently learned is this. Why, when I first did it, and everything, again, he says, makes sense in all my experiences, like 5 things. I was on for so long. I don't remember how I felt initially. I probably must have toughed through it. And then shredded and peeled, ripped, no water retention, no carpal tunnel. And I was on for years at 4 IUs, which now I understand is actually an extremely low dose. And my response was insane. Every time I go to try initiate growth hormone again, even at 2 IUs or 1.5, bro, carpal tunnel beyond water retention. It's due to the fact that even starting at even 1.5 to 2 for me on a daily basis, my kidneys, it's with your kidneys releasing aldosterone, trying to catch up. They're not efficient. And what's leading to the carpal tunnel is water retention in the wrist. I was under the misconception that your wrist tendons are swelling, whatever it is. That's not it. So therefore, what someone's supposed to do, even whatever dose it is, as low as 1.5, you back it down to even 3/4 or 1.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Stay with that. And over the course of months, you increase it slightly until your kidneys adapt, then up and up. A lot of guys start blasting 4 to 6 right away. you blow up with water.
Yeah.
Carpal tunnel, back it to 2. Then you go to 3, then you go to 4.
How long is the maintenance period? Is it just until you don't feel any side effects and then you boost it back up, or like what's the window?
So from what I got was this. It's really like from the one conversation we had, it sounded like a very long duration in time, this process, the pyramid. So you keep increasing the dose over the course of just say a couple weeks, few weeks. This is what I'm thinking. It was quicker. Now you hit that point where you start to get a side effect, you back it down. And you stay at that dose with no side effects for like 7 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Long time.
Okay.
With anabolics until your strength decreases or not increase, stay stable, then you increase slightly, like 10%.
Okay.
Right? To let your body adapt. If you jump too much, side effects.
That's the thing too, man. That's a big mistake that some people make as well. There was a big fad back when I was really into heavy gear use. Guys were like, well, you're going to be on cycle. So in other words, like front load your cycle so that if you're taking a gram of test, your blood levels are at a gram of test within 5 days instead of having to wait, a while for all the esters to peak. And everyone just got side effects. Because you're going from either 200 a week or maybe not on at all to now all of a sudden
Bro, it's
500%
increase.
It's
like midwinter, you turn your car and just floor it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's exactly what it's
exactly.
like.
Just pedal down. Everything's
Car's
just
frozen. It's 7 degrees here in New York and you just gas it.
Yeah.
Something's going to break.
100%. And like a lot of guys, when I was around, this was a big thing on internet forums back in the day, and it's like, everyone's like, man, I'm getting really bad anxiety, or I'm getting gyno. And it's like, yeah, dude, no shit. You were just taking 150 a week, and now you're taking 1150 a week, okay? Like, you would have started to get results at 300,
Isn't that
at 500.
common sense, bro?
Yeah, of course.
But what is common sense?
Well, it's not common. Yeah, but that was the whole mentality, which is like, if you're going to be on gear, be on gear.
Bro, you got to
right?
think about it. Like, listen, I'm not smart, right?
Don't say that.
You go from 200.
You're very smart.
You go from 200 milligrams to 1,200 milligrams. Do these people realize the human body, at best, if you're an elite athlete, produces 7 milligrams a day, and now we're gonna jump up 1,000 in a week? What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Nothing. You're just gonna get bigger.
It's so comical, but it's the same concept. All my years doing jiu-jitsu, when I first started, I trained like a complete psychopath. My late teens, early 20s. Didn't have a girlfriend, no serious job, just going to school. I was training like twice a day. And one of the guys at the gym who had just finished wrestling in college pulled me aside and he was like, stop doing this. And I'm like, why? And he's like, dude, you don't have a season. He was like, you're doing like a collegiate wrestling season all year long. He's like, you don't understand. College wrestlers, some of them finish and they don't work out for like 5 years. Like they've been a monk for 4 to 6 years if they're redshirted, whatever eligibility. He's like, you want to do this for 20 years. This is totally unsustainable. Of course, I didn't believe him. What happened? Well, I'm taking 7 years off. Totally burned myself out. Didn't want to train anymore. Got into powerlifting, turned around and came back.
Oh, really?
And I just started to hate it. I was like, I hate this because also and I think this is true in lifting. You devise an unrealistic expectation for improvement. So if you're training 12 times a week in jiu-jitsu and you're not demolishing the person who's training 5 times a week, you're going to get frustrated. You're not getting bang for your buck in terms of the amount of time and energy you're putting in, and you're going to think you don't have it, or you're going to think, there's no point, or this school sucks, or this doesn't work, or whatever, when the reality is you're just so past the saturation point for effective training that it's just not working for you.
Overtrained.
Right? Exactly.
You're overtrained.
Yeah, you're mentally you can't do it. You can't absorb anything else, period, right? And so when I got back into it, I was like, all right, I'm going to train no more than 5 days a week ever. That would be a hard week, like 5 training sessions a week. And, fast forward like 10 years, and I'm still doing it. And I still take breaks. Every couple of years, I'll take 3 to 6 months off. And I'll train for something
good
different.
for you both ways, mentally and physically, right?
And when I come back,
so
I'm
even
into it.
you and I are not high-level competitive athletes, but even doing it recreational, right? It's almost like training in blocks, like I'm training for a fight. Train a little bit more for strength for a little bit. Just maintain what you're doing, right? And, then maybe I'll flip around. I'll step my training back. I'll do like upper, lower, not crazy volume to build muscle, just maintain strength, and then do some combat stuff a little more focused.
Yes.
And then, when you get a little mentally burned out physically, maybe then you go back to working on your strength. You just do some other shit.
But I see it so often on the mats now, dude. I've seen it years and years and years. Someone will show up and they're training morning and night, 6 days a week. And I'm like, it's almost like being an upper belt. I feel like the grizzled staff sergeant in Vietnam who doesn't even want to learn the privates' names until he survived 3 battles. You're like, you're probably going to die. I don't want to get attached to you. Like I'll protect you. I've got your back, but you're going to be gone soon, so I don't want to know about your wife.
Why
and
you
kids.
see it all the time? They come in hard and leave.
Yeah,
And they don't come in.
And here's what the thing, and I think this is, if anyone who's into combat sports is listening to this, you probably see this a little bit, but you're not into jiu-jitsu the way I am or the way that Zane is. Not only are they training 12 sessions a week, I cannot possibly overemphasize how poorly these people eat.
Oh no, I've seen that.
I cannot. It is alarming. Like it's to the point of where the resiliency of their body is actually impressive, considering how dehydrated, overstressed, and undernourished they are for such a long period of time. Right? So like that's tough to maintain if your nutrition's dialed in, your hormones are optimized, you're controlling for stress levels in your life, you don't have to worry about a job, relationship, kids, marriage, whatever the fuck, okay. But you got all the stresses of a normal person and you're training 12 days a week or 12 times a week, good luck. You're fucked. I always say, when I see someone like that, I'm like, I give you 3 to 4 months. Then I won't see you.
You're going to burn out bad.
Yeah. But the same thing is true in weight training. You and I have spoken a lot about, Todd Lee and how much a lot of his knowledge has, frankly, reinforced a lot of our observations and suspicions over the years in training. And he just did a table talk with Dave Tate from Elite FTS, and he was discussing training volume intensity and how you're supposed to feel after a workout. And he raised a good point. He's like, if you're really sore after a session, first of all, you're triggering an immune response. That is stressful for your body to do, right? That's why you're likely to get sick when you're overtraining, because your immune system is repairing all the shit that you tore up, and now some pathogen that your body would normally be able to chew up and spit out gets in your system, and now you're fucked. You got the flu, you got COVID.
Your body only has a
this,
certain
whatever.
amount of volume to fight off something or build or work on something, right? So now if your body's choosing to fight off something, it's not going to build tissue, or vice versa. If you chewed it up in the gym, all the energy sources are going to that. A light little germ in your body is going to now show itself.
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to get sick.
I used to work with my friend Drew. He listens to the podcast, so he'll find this funny. He was a competitive bodybuilder. This is back in our early to mid-20s. And took time off from competing. He was partying like crazy. He was living in a frat house or whatever. He used to get sick every time he trained legs.
Every single time.
Because he was just drinking so much, pushing his body to the absolute limit.
He physically actually gets sick.
He would physically get sick every time he trained legs. Because he was just getting shit blasted drunk, still pushing it hard in the gym, going to school, working, just being stretched way too thin. And if he went in and did a normal, old school, high volume, bro split, bodybuilding leg workout, he would have the flu like in 2 days. Not even, just buried.
Really?
Buried from it, yeah. Like just too much work given the stress that was on his body, And I wonder sometimes, America, I think a great thing about this country is, even though you and I are not Protestant, the Protestant work ethic, like you work hard, you build something for yourself and all, but like sometimes I wonder if we take that work ethic in training like a little bit too far, like we're proud to suffer. And like it's almost like you're bragging to your boys that you can barely get off the toilet the next morning after a leg workout. Like we've all been there, But you start to think like, that's not helping me. It's not. And if you're the type of person that say works a physical job like yourself, like these are legitimate problems for you. Like you can't be handling a jackhammer after you did 25 sets of squats. Like it's going to affect your well-being. You can't just lay on the couch
or
take cold plunges
ladders
all day. Yeah, it's way too much. And sometimes I wonder how much that really contributed to the exceptional results that you had, because you had to intuitively find a training volume that allowed you to be functional at your job. If you were working at a desk, you might have gone even crazier in the gym because there was no immediate like negative feedback loop for like, I can't walk the next day.
I mean, dude, I think maybe my body just adapted to it.
That's it too.
I mean, I would train like I didn't have a job. Right? Like I didn't even think about how to go up and let down ladders. I didn't. Yeah. I'd be sore as fuck. And I can't remember so many years ago. Maybe I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm going to pop a quad going up and down. Then I just
got used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember going to work being like, yo, my legs are hammered, right? right now
Yeah.
or something. Oh yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I find whenever I go back to jiu-jitsu from a layoff, and I've been always lifting during the layoff, like I have to lower volume drastically.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Drastically. You know, there's just no way. Because if I don't do it, I find myself at the gym training not to get hurt. Like I'm so stiff that I can't move that I'm like, well, can't go in that position. That position's off. Can't get put over here. This guy can't grab this arm. I'm too sore over here. And before I know it, I'm just worried about getting hurt and not worried about improving. So there's always going to be like for me, it's like 2 sets per exercise right now.
That's what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
So I started boxing again, right? So yesterday I go, okay, make a decision not to wreck your body. Just hit the weight a little bit, get stronger, make a little progress in that way.
Yeah.
Did a couple sets of pull downs. Then I focused on rack pulls, right? Not really moving. You know what I'm saying? Where you're pulling with your arms to make your biceps overwork, but throwing punches. I didn't do any real rowing because my rear delts, you know what I'm saying, my back.
Of course.
And it was good. I took in consideration because the value right now, I want to box again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And not do 36 sets of back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying?
saying?
It cooks you. Yeah, of course. It cooks you. You have a finite amount of energy, but it's funny you bring that up because another thing that I have been thinking about a lot, I see this a lot actually with our clients, and we've spoken about this a little bit, but even with jiu-jitsu guys who have a lot more invested in their aerobic conditioning than say the average guy. The average guy might just want to do just enough cardio to not drop dead at a young age and keep some body fat off. They're not performance athletes in the aspect of what they expect from their lungs and heart or whatever, right? But the degree to which guys overdo conditioning when you understand exactly what most people need. So like training in zone 4 or zone 5, so like lactate threshold or VO2 max is incredibly demanding. It is mentally demanding. Like if I tell you we're going to do 4-minute, the Peter Attia thing though, 4-minute VO2 max intervals. If you've done that once, you will begin to get existential dread. Like this is going to be really, really tough. I'm gonna have.
So
to
what
push.
is the Peter Attia test?
Well, I forget the exact name. I call it that because he's popularized it.
But what's the duration?
It's 4x4 with full recovery. So 4-minute intervals.
You do a 4-minute at what level? Like
at
gas pedal?
Like pretty much between
90%.
90-95% of
That's
max
hard,
rate.
bro.
That's very challenging. Okay, that's very, very challenging, right? So like that's hard. It's also psychologically demanding.
Psychologically demanding.
You start to develop like a Pavlovian response to it. Like you walk up to that step mill or whatever it is, and you're like, "Fuck!" Like you feel the fear.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah, it's in your system. And the middle zone of conditioning work, zone 3, is usually what most coaches say is the most useless because it doesn't give you the best improvement, but it does accumulate fatigue. So the fatigue to the stimulus ratio is just not good there. So you would either train in zone 1 or zone 2 or zone 4 and zone 5.
Slow cardio or gas pedal?
And gas pedal for most people actually does not have pragmatic use, generally speaking.
Doesn't.
Now, there is, Peter Attia is big on, if you're in the top percentile for age and weight in VO2 max, that seems to be heavily correlated with living a very long, healthy life. Now, that obviously makes sense. If you could deliver oxygen more efficiently, you're going to live longer. Also, someone who is in the top percentile for VO2 max is eating correctly, hydrating correctly, sleeping correctly.
That's someone who's focused on that.
It's also the factors around it, of course, that contribute to this, right? But most people are not going to be pushing their heart to that much of a level on a daily basis. So what does that mean? They should be doing zone 1 and zone 2. I mean, usually keeping the heart rate under or around 130 beats per minute for most adult men is really all you need. And it's just time in that window for periods, for whatever, could be 30 minutes, could be 60 minutes, whatever your training program looks like or whatever your goals are. And the response I always get is, well, that's boring. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, first of all, it's not my fault that you don't know how to turn your brain off. Right? Like, not everything has to be...
Wait, what's boring? That what?
Like, just sitting there and doing the cardio. Like, I don't want to... That's boring. I couldn't possibly do that.
We do zone 2 cardio.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, put on a show, chill the fuck out, and just view it as almost active meditation. Like, not everything has to be super mentally intensive.
You know what's not boring? Thinking about the results you're going to get.
Well, that's my next point.
You have to do it.
People don't view training that way. Right. People do.
I don't know, dude. It's slow
way.
enough. Why don't you wear fucking fleshlight and watch porn and do it? Maybe you'd be more happier.
Of course you were going to go there. Look, I mean, I in a way, I actually agree with you, which is simply do whatever you have to do.
You think I love doing it? No, but I make it entertaining. I put on a YouTube. I listen. I go slow instead of gas pedaling, and you make the time useful.
Yes.
Watch a movie. You like movies. If you think it's boring, useless loser.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but it's true. Well, this is the next thing that I was thinking about a lot in terms of like having an advanced understanding of training and a healthy relationship with exercise, which is, I think, the most advanced person sometimes is the person who is the most concerned with the outcome and not necessarily the process. Yes, you have to enjoy the process, but can you really tell me that you're training to improve if we can present evidence to you, a very large body of evidence, and make a compelling intellectual argument that, hey, if we do it in this way where you're not killing yourself all the time, you will get better, and yet you still choose to go and kill yourself, or say train more frequently than you have to, right? Things like that really hurt our ability to help you in the long run.
So what I do is this, right? When I'm speaking to people or clients or whatever, I paint the picture of when I'm shredded and I go away with my family, or when I was a kid or whatever, right? And you think I like doing slow cardio, bro? You think I genuinely enjoy it? No, I'd rather punch things and curl or whatever, right? But every time I'm on there and I hit like minute 22, 37, I'm like, I put myself there. I go, every minute longer I'm on here, the closer I am to that. Every minute longer I'm on here, and I play little games. I hit minute 40, you go, you got another 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's what you
I go,
have to
no, you could go to 45. Don't be a pussy. You got 46. Yeah. I go, yo, it's halfway there. You could do 50.
Yeah.
Before you know it.
Yeah, before you know it, you're
I
at
play
an hour.
little games with
you're
myself,
done.
and you get an hour.
But I was discussing this with Zane yesterday. We were talking about not overdoing it with training PED use, nutrition, or drugs too early in your career. So he had been mentioning some stuff about GLP-1 agonists to be used to help with insulin resistance. And we were having a conversation. I was just like, well, are you doing really anything for that right now? And I was like, well, you would probably start, of course, with a low-carb diet. Then you might take some berberine. Obviously, you'd be exercising, right? But if we were to use the GLP-1 agonist right out of the gate, assume, of course, that you're a healthy person. Yeah, if you're 400 pounds, whatever, go for it. I mean, at this point, every second you're 400 pounds is taking minutes off your life.
Shouldn't be taking that shit.
Absolutely, right? But if we use that as the first thing, it's like killing a fly with a nuclear warhead, right? It's like if a guy wanted to, it's true. If a guy wanted to bench 225 and he took Tren, great. Now you want to bench 500. We have no ace card to play. We've already played the ace card. Now all we can do is just grind away at this which you're going to have to do anyway, but we're not going to have that little card to play. Yeah. It's like, great, we killed the fly. The world is over. The horse fly is dead and now our face is melted. So to my point about training intensity and volume is I get that you want to train, okay? But when you hit a plateau, there's only a few things we can do. We can increase intensity, which most of our programs are based around intensity. I'm not comfortable giving much higher intensity because I don't want guys to get hurt. If I'm not there to coach you, I'm very comfortable with intensity to a certain point, but I don't know you well enough to trust you not to hurt yourself, period, okay? So then we go to volume. Sure, we can add extra volume, but if you're already doing a preposterous amount of volume, do we really have the time and the recovery to go add in more volume to give you a better stimulus? Probably not. You already played that ace card, right? So you do what you have to do. I mean, Mike O'Hearn says this, and whatever, he's the character, but minimum effective dose to get to your results, and then add in more when you need to.
Who said that?
Mike O'Hearn.
Minimum effective dose of what?
Training.
Okay. But it's true.
Yes.
Because then you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Doses of that, you get all these DMs. Oh yeah, my first one, I'm doing 600 this, 600 this. I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Dude? You have nowhere to go.
You don't even look like you work out.
What are you talking about?
On top of that, it's not working, by the way. It's not working. But and this is the thing, what you had mentioned again with Todd Lee, it's an interesting point. We were discussing yesterday guys that are hyper responders to gear, guys who need less to get more. And there definitely is a part I had mentioned, it was funny, my wife was so embarrassed. I was like, yeah, this guy always hits record and doesn't tell you he's recording. So there's a clip on the internet of me talking about sexual dysfunction because I was taking Test and Boldenone and it was messing up my estrogen. My wife's like, why is that out there? I'm like, well, it's important that people know, I was taking more drugs, okay, and decided I hate the way this is making me feel, and then I took less drugs. You didn't see me for 2 weeks, and you're like, dude, you look way bigger already.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're taking too much, and the chemical reaction that you're getting within your body, especially if you're trying to build size, like. I get overloading on gear if you're doing a bodybuilding show because you're starving yourself and you have to do everything possible to maintain the tissue and keep force production in the gym up so you don't lose the tissue. But as Todd has said, as we've kind of parroted, if your estrogen is too low, we're going to have some pretty serious problems. And most of the compounds that people are going to run with test are going to negatively affect estrogen. So yeah, they look harder and leaner, but they never grow.
Yeah,
they never.
That was one of the biggest. Like, only if we knew what we knew when I was young. Dude, yeah. Everyone like the '90s and crush your estrogen.
Yeah,
dude. So on to what we're talking about. Not like so. When I was young, crush your estrogen. Take growth. Take test. Right. Uh-huh. I was taking a Arimidex M Primo on 400 milligrams. My estrogen was probably like 0.
Yeah.
Right. And still at 2.5 to 4 IUs, whatever I was doing, I still had an IGF-1 of 360. Taking that,
it's pretty alarming. Yeah.
It's insane, and I had no estrogen. That's what I mean. Like, dude, like I don't know. Like, I must have some crazy abundance of IGF-1 receptors.
You have great genetics, dude.
I was like,
we're gonna call this the week that Vinny Uzi discovered he could have been a professional bodybuilder.
Probably.
Which, by the way, we all knew except you. I knew it. Zane knew it. Everyone knows it. Like you, dude. You're like.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that back then. I didn't know it. I didn't really think.
I agree.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I knew what I knew now, I would have done more, and then who knows what would have happened. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Of course.
It's
interesting as you get older when you start to see the consequences of going.
Dude, guys started to die of heart attacks and shit and all that. What I found interesting also in a conversation with him was we started talking about lipids. Cholesterol, and that's one of the biggest things with me because I had a scare 5 years ago. 800 calcium score. Meanwhile, it happened to be nothing due to my genetic disposition, no family heart attacks. Plaque is built up in the exterior of the walls. Now, mine was 800, considerably high. Meanwhile, I spoke to someone recently, it was 2200. Holy shit, he had to get fucking his widowmaker scraped out and all that stuff, right? So in a conversation with him, I said, about initiating dementia, Alzheimer's, my cholesterol's too low. He goes, back up a second. He goes, let's stay there for a second. He goes, your cholesterol is what? I said, it's a 30, 31, 31. And he goes, I'm like 60. Isn't that good to initiate? He goes, now correlation and causation?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
The studies, so we use the analogy. I like analogies. Stay in front of Walmart, take a picture of the first 30 people you see. I use the Disney World analogy.
That's
America.
That's the Uzi strength.
He goes, all the studies are done on normal people, just bodies standing there, not a trained, well-fed, pretty much athlete human being. Now the rules don't go for guys like us, all right? The only thing that would initiate a low total cholesterol or LDL and HDL combination is a malnutrition, undernourished individual. Therefore, the micronutrients, everything that's vital for feeding the brain are not there, would lead to Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah. I found that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you feel? I was like, I use my brain all the time. I go, I didn't fall off a drip. I'm like waiting for it. I'm taking creatine. He goes, dude, stop.
Yeah.
He goes, you want to make yourself feel better? Download one of those games there for guys, soldiers with PTSD. Play with it.
Yeah.
All right. He goes, you don't even need it. But if you want to, just go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I get into arguments with people that'll say that BMI is useless. It's actually not, because most people aren't jacked. Generally speaking, if your BMI is too high and you're not a trained individual, you're in bad shape, okay? If you're like morbidly obese by BMI standards and you don't lift weights, you are in rough fucking shape. And honestly, there's an argument to be made that's even true for like bodybuilders or strongmen. Like the quantity and amount of calories you're taking in plus the drugs to maintain that weight still is not the best thing for you, period. But regardless, yeah, there are different rules for people who train. I mean, we've said this, the steroid question is so interesting because, and I've said this forever, like, let's not confuse bodybuilding deaths with purely steroid use because the baseball players are fine. There are no baseball players dropping dead from this. I think Ken Caminiti did, but he was notoriously
so funny
unhealthy.
Of all sports, baseball players.
And he was like a notorious partier, nut job, who was also juicing his
party,
brains
take
off.
steroids. I love steroids in baseball.
Complete psycho.
Times.
But like all of these guys that did it, almost all of them, in many cases under doctor supervision, they had the caveat that they couldn't get too big for the sport.
You can't.
So like, even if they wanted to do more drugs, they couldn't do it because they'd be worse.
Do you remember Mel Hall?
No.
He was a lefty. I think he was an outfielder, played for the Yankees, but he got jacked. I was a kid. I was a little kid. But he came back jacked, and he couldn't swing anymore.
Really?
Got so jacked through his chest. Yeah. His batting average went down.
And that was it. Yeah, where the rest of these guys, and what's funny is in so many of them, too, because bodybuilding is not tied to their identity, you see all of them, Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, when they retired, they lost all the muscle. They didn't care. They probably still exercise. Barry Bonds does distance cycling and jiu-jitsu now, right? So he's still
pretty jacked,
he's an athlete. He was a fucking monster, dude. There's pictures of him walking up to the plate.
Dykstra.
Yeah,
Remember
it's just mortifying, Yeah, Dykstra's, He was actually, so funny thing about Dykstra, he was the first player to get a therapeutic use exemption.
Really?
So he actually got it legally.
TRT.
And like in the late 80s, early 90s. And he and Canseco were the two guys that started it because he went on it and he was like, you're insane for not doing this. Like, this is legal. You guys are out of your minds, okay? But all of these guys lost the weight. They slimmed down. They're perfectly fine. They're perfectly healthy. You can only carry that weight on you for a finite period of time.
McGuire got big, dude.
Right. But he's also a
huge human being.
Like, important note, I think we discussed this one time. His brother was almost an IFBB pro.
Really?
Jay McGuire, who later, he narked on his brother. I guess they had some falling out and either wrote a book or did an expose.
The brother did to Mark.
And he gave up his training and his drugs. Just telling which drugs he was taking.
I guess they're not really on a good relationship.
Probably not at this point, okay? But there's a picture of Mark McGuire standing next to his brother in contest shape. Guy looks phenomenal. That's not just a guy that decided to do a show on a lark and like look like shit.
We're brothers. You're a professional baseball player. Don't take this.
Yeah, exactly. So like, but Mark McGuire had the structure. Like, he didn't look unhealthy with that weight on his body. He's just a
big human, bro.
Just a really big.
What was he, like,
dude.
6'4"? 6'4",
6'5". I often wonder what his peak playing weight was. Had to be at least 270.
He was big, dude. Crushing.
Yeah. Had to
Crushing.
Be, just by how the bat looked in his hands.
How big was Bonds? He wasn't overly big.
It's my height.
Was he that? Is he that tall?
Yeah. 6'1", 6'2".
If you do that, did you know he used to use a smaller bat and choke up a lot and really turn that inside pitch? That's what I found so interesting and intriguing, right? The way he hit. Like, if you notice the way he hit, did you ever watch the way he used to turn on that inside pitch and used to fucking crank him over the right field fence?
He was amazing.
My drives? Dude, he used to literally stand on top of the plate and he used to throw so inside on him and he used to choke up on the bat and crush home runs. Oh, wow. I can't believe you pulled that up.
That's Mark McGuire and his brother. Yeah.
Yo, look at the size of McGuire's arm there, bro.
Yeah, dude. He's a legitimate specimen.
His brother sold him out, though. People don't even realize if they look at that picture, like, hey, look, Steroid's, but yo, his brother's jacked.
Yeah, that's a great physique.
People have no idea. Like, that's
a phenomenal physique.
And McGuire's how tall? 6'5", let's call it?
So his brother's got to be 6'2", 6'3".
He's big, dude.
Yeah.
That's a big human being.
Yeah. It's crazy. For the audience listening, look up Jay McGuire or Mark McGuire's brother, whatever. You'll get the story about how he sold them out. But, yeah,
I didn't know
that. Gave the whole thing up. Yeah, totally.
Off subject, back to the VO2 max, right? Just the other day, I don't know what I was playing around. Like, I know why I did. Actually, I told you this. I got a hiccup problem. Remember I told you that? Mm-hmm. So every now and then, I don't know what, if I eat something, I lean over, whatever, they trigger it. Once the diaphragm gets triggered, I'm like, fuck, I start hiccuping. Uh-huh. So what I do, I stand there, I hold my breath. I have to relax. I put my head, what works for me, it sounds crazy. I pretend I'm drowning. I'm trying to get to the surface. I put my mind in a different place and I have to make it to the top.
Okay.
It works every time.
I believe you. Absolutely.
So I did it, got rid of the hiccups. I go, I just want to see how long I can hold my breath.
How'd this go?
A little over 2 minutes.
That's good, dude.
Right?
That's good.
So I said, what percent I'm in, right? And that was me also gassing myself out before holding my breath. Uh-huh. I could probably let's just say do for 230 max. I'm just curious if you ever did that or not.
Not for a long time. Not for a really long time. There was a number of like fitness screens that coaches used to use back in the day, and one of them was to test like basically like your aerobic capacity as well as like your ability to breathe, how long you can hold your breath for. I know that when I'm
in good shape.
When I was powerlifting, I struggled with 60 seconds.
Heavy weight.
It was like really embarrassing. But when I was a kid and we had a pool in the yard and I was swimming all the time and I was a rail, I mean, I could be underwater forever. Like it was like, it was always a contest.
You noticed that is it Malaysia? They have the best free divers, pearl divers?
I'm not sure.
In that region of the world.
Yeah.
They could hold their breath for like 7+ minutes.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
I held mine for 2 and I was like,
yeah, you're
doing
like
that.
Yeah, you're like worried that you're going to die. Yeah.
Yeah, I was holding it like I was going to die until I literally couldn't keep my mouth, start squeaking in. 7 minutes, bro. And swimming.
Yeah. Also,
I wasn't
being
moving.
active. Yeah, exactly. Burning through. Yeah, burning through.
That means if they stood still, they could probably do for like 9.
Yeah, maybe more, dude.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Don't you pass out from lack of oxygen?
I'm sure some of those guys have crossed that border a little bit in training. No question. There's definitely some pearl diver related deaths out there that we don't hear about. But I mean, look, that is an important thing. It does actually. It's a reasonable indicator of your aerobic system's health, right? And that's again, like I think I went over this last time, but I'll just say this. I've had some health scares in my family recently. I've been told you about them.
Yeah.
And a very, very close friend of mine lost his father. And it's just, you start to think to yourself, like, all right, from now on, that's why I went back to jiu-jitsu overnight. I was like, I got to be healthy. I got to make sure and I haven't been neglecting my cardio. Unlike the last time I went through a strength phase, I didn't do shit except eat and lift, and I really felt it. But it's a matter of what's worth it and what's not worth it. And, I think, like we said before, the next frontier is going to be, I think, peptides for mitochondrial health and longevity.
I'm going to give myself a test run, right? So the only time I've felt really, really good, like really good at this point in my life, is when I take a TRD in conjunction with a very small amount of something for a duration of time.
Yeah.
Right? I just want to see bloods, whatever, under guidance, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to give the peptides a run too. MOTS-C, NAD, TB500 on a consistent basis, because I recently read, like, I'm hoping with like stem cells will return me back to 30. They're like, you're going down the path. If you're too far gone, it could only do so much, pretty much is what it said.
Okay.
Torn muscles, torn rotators, it could only do so much, right? So I'm like, let me give this a shot and see how I feel, right? But I also digested the fact, like, I'm waiting to feel 100% to start boxing wrong again. And I go, I'm never going to feel 100%. This guy, Nick, guy's name, Greek guy, Nick Kamalusa, whatever. He's one of Bedros' guys. He posed something, and I saw it, but he goes, you're never going to be 100%, bro. You're never going to, like, he goes, I just trained little fucked up all the time. I'm like, you know what? What am I waiting for? To feel great?
Yeah.
I'm never going to feel great.
Well, that's important, too, to point that out, because I remember seeing an interview with Frank Mir where Frank Mir was busting someone's chops for talking about that he was injured before he took a fight. And the guy asked Frank Mir, like, but you've said that you were... He's like everyone's injured when this Frank Mir saying everyone's injured, just shut the fuck up. We know you're injured when you step in the cage, like, period. And the interviewer's like, well, you said you're fine. He goes, yeah, I lie. We all lie. Okay, we lie to ourselves because we want to insist that we're okay, and then people are paying money for this, and we're not going to say, hey, I'm half crippled. This fight's going to suck. Point is, there's always a way out. Like I think
making a way out when he lost.
Yeah, I think, dude, honestly, a big kick in the dick lesson for me. I'm embarrassed to admit that I didn't know this earlier in life, but like, you have kids, you have more responsibilities, you get more ways out. Kid's sick. I'm not going to work as much today. I didn't sleep as well last night.
More excuses.
Reality is, the older you get, the less likely every aspect of your life is to be at 100% on a given day, right? Things could be going great with your kids, shitty with your wife. Great with the family, shitty with your boss. Okay, like training is great. There's
nothing's perfect
and the reality is, like, when you're 19 or 20 and you have less variables to control in your life, you could walk around and say everything's great. I'm ready to go work hard, do what I got to do. But once I started having kids, I started to realize that you actually need to work more now. There's more on the line. You got people that are depending on you. And then simultaneously, life is giving you more excuses not to go hard because you have so much going on. To your point, you should always do something. Always. There's because
You're never going to be 100%
the second
ever.
you take the one path off your course, it's easier to do it again and again and again. And before you do, you're not working hard enough, be it at your business or at your job, or with your wife, your marriage, your kids, and your training. And you just keep taking these paths off. And before you know it, a year's gone by and you haven't accomplished fucking anything. And that's true of life. Like I said, it's true of jiu-jitsu. Every guy that we know that's a top level grappler is banged up. Okay.
I think if you do it all the time, bro, something hurts.
Of course.
Something
How could it not,
hurts,
dude?
bro.
How could it not?
I train so much, whether it be weight training or boxing. I fucked up my knee. I don't know if I did it boxing. I don't know if I did it squatting too deep. I don't know how I did it. What am I waiting for? Just go a little easier and be mindful of that spot. My rear delts are fucked up. They feel very compromised, like something's going to blow.
Yeah.
Just be careful.
Yeah. And that's some of the stuff that I'll kind of tell our clients is look, just because you can't, we've had some people that got injured, let's say on the job, and then they'll say, I'm going to cancel the program, because I really can't do it 100%. And it sounds maybe salesman-ish when I say this, but the thing is, I actually genuinely believe it. You can still train.
You can't, dude. I've trained with blown apart triceps.
Yeah.
I figured out a way to just keep doing it.
Of course.
I had one arm.
Of course.
Right? I had one arm. Are we filming still?
I mean, we're about to finish up.
Yeah. Tell your story. We'll finish up.
How I want to bomb Pakistan now?
All right. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Okay. You guys are nuts. Okay. Don't make excuses, people.
He doesn't say. He just gets up and starts.
I love that about Zane. When I see him stirring,
He goes, "That's his weird."
I know it's a wrap. He's like, "We're going home. We got to do this again tomorrow." So it is what it is.
Oh yeah, we do. Right?
Should we leave this here? Or are you going to train someone today? Or
What's today? No, I'm done for today. Tomorrow morning is what?
Thursday.
I do have one client, but oh, it sucks. Should I cancel him?
no.
All right, we'll wrap it up and put it.
I'm gonna buy that growth off you soon. I'm excited.
Want some to start?
I'll try it.
Yeah, I'll
Back
give
to
you
your
a few.
static water. Stop giving me that look. I'm just,
Does Zane like shitty food?
Yes.
What do you call it?
Zane is so shot. I love it.
Let me pack this up later. I'll come back a little bit later and pack this up.
You know,
Because we have to talk about other stuff anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got actually someone coming here in 20 minutes. I got a box, and I'll be back at 2. But
I'll be back around 2, 3 anyways, yeah.
what do I have some stuff at 2, 2, 3. I think. Nothing crazy. I have gaps in there, but I think 3 or 4 or something.
I mean, I have to come back anyways.
All right.
Yeah. So,
You have to run now.
yeah.
All right. I can wrap up some of it, though. Want to wrap up some of it?
No, I mean, I got it. I'm just going to...
I can help too,
I
man.
can wrap up what I can wrap up.
I can help too.
What's your phone?
I mean, I'm literally just going to take most of this stuff, put it behind that box. That
You
way
could just leave it in the corner. We'll just all I need is the middle. Just leave the stand, leave him stand up, and put him there.
Okay.
The guy I trained at Thursday, that